I want to talk about Hard Knocks a little bit. Can we shift to that?
Absolutely.
Because it's impossible to ignore the Hard Knocks presence. There's extra vehicles outside. My favorite thing is they ride around in ATVs. Like most people drive around in golf carts around training camp, and they have those Polaris like heavy duty ATVs, like they're about to drive through the woods, which maybe they are. There are a lot of trees around there. And then the cameras, I don't know about you guys. I sat down in my seat and there was a camera guy 3 feet away from me, and all of a sudden the camera was pointed right at my face. And I was like, that's weird. You can do better content than that. So, and that was before the press conference even started. That was just me sitting down on my laptop. I don't know. If there was a buzz from the 2 rooms we got to be in today on report day, it was just the fact that Hard Knocks was there, and it was a crowded place to be.
I'm waiting for them to reach out to me for the exclusive that they want to do with at the Carm, and quite frankly, I'm a little surprised it hasn't happened yet.
You do know the show is about the team and the players.
Yeah, but that's been there, done that. Let's go think outside the box, Hard Knocks, and what I could provide. I'm going to do everything I can to get on the show, ruin the show, make the show better, everything that you can imagine. It did feel like, I don't know, a little bit different there today, I suppose, with Hard Knocks. The players were asked about it. I'm excited about Adam Hoge sitting there yesterday drinking his coffee and wondering whether or not everybody else is watching the Giants on the offseason Hard Knocks with Joe Sheen, who I think their GM, who I actually think is Adam Hoge's twin and or want to be him, which I told you at practice today. I think you want to be him. I think you want a very big fancy desk and put your phone there and just make calls and just and have these high level conversations and deal with the reality and just I think it's a good spot for you. I see you as a general manager.
Sounds stressful.
Yeah,
it looks stressful based off the episode.
And I would put my money on Ryan Poles keeping his job longer than Joe Shane right now.
We got plenty of GMs in the NFL that don't know what they're doing, and watching this show, I feel like you can do it.
You're saying I can have that job and I just would not know what I'm doing. So that's pretty accurate.
I mean, all they did was lay out who was a free agent and this guy's $5 million, this guy's $6 million, and then you had the head coach Brian Dable saying how many sacks last year did Brian Burns have? And I'm like, what am I, the head coach of the New York Giants? The guy doesn't know how many. I mean, it doesn't seem that difficult.
That was interesting.
That was actually crazy to me because the Brian Burns thing has been part of the first 3 episodes, going back to a conversation he was having with the Panthers GM back at the Senior Bowl. And they're those guys are best friends too. Those 2 GMs are seriously, their kids are friends together. And I'm like, you're not having this conversation with Brian Dable until the morning of free agency started? What? They're going through, well, we can have this guy. I think this seems like a meeting that should have happened a month ago. What is going on here? I found that to be so weird.
And I wonder too, I mean, now obviously the Bears are going to be in Hard Knocks. They're obviously there. I wonder what they're going to reveal in terms of, that behind the scenes content that we're not seeing when we're there, but will be, just put out there for everybody to see. So I wonder too, yes, all the, the players recognize it. And I think TJ Edwards was asked something along the lines of, do you act any differently? He's like, no. I feel like, I don't know, when that cameras are around, wouldn't you, I don't know if you feel less guarded, but they're going to try to be themselves, but it'll be interesting to see how they actually do that as the cameras are everywhere, literally everywhere.
I know that I am significantly different when somebody is watching me versus when no one's watching me.
Right.
And my behavior goes off a cliff. So I do think that Hard Knocks being there is going to change the way some people go about their business. I thought it, with the Giants thing, I think it changes how Brian Dable is. He's very reserved in that room with Joe Sheen. So I don't know. I think it's definitely going to have some level of impact on how the Bears do their training camp.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it was just very noticeable. Now, granted, we're in a relatively small room, but so if you're in the big auditorium and the team meeting, which is taking place at 2:00 today, do you notice the cameras as much? I don't know. A lot of those cameras and like the team rooms and stuff are fixed. Like they put those are already pre-installed. So I'm not sure. Maybe we're making a bigger deal out of it than the players are. And I have already heard from people inside the building that like HBO makes it's really NFL Films, but the NFL Films guys that are there doing it, as much as we saw them today, they really do try to blend into the building because they want it to be as authentic as possible. So they try not to pre-plan stuff too much. They try to make it, where they're just sort of filming as it unfolds and then going back and editing it after that. So it'll be interesting. I mean, I can't wait to see what the final product is. But in the meantime, I'm going to keep just drooling over this Giants Hard Knocks because it's fascinating to me and I love it.
And one more on it. I know we have some important people that we want to thank in a second here, but the Giants owner, John Mara, coming in there and around the Saquon Barkley stuff and being like, I'm going to have a hard time if he lands in the division. That's our most popular player. And there's an actual real owner just kind of strolling into the GM's office. And by the way, I can't imagine George McCaskey doing anything remotely like that. Like that dude was actually in there with the real angst of losing a popular player like that. It was, that was an interesting part of the episode for sure.
And then he lost him to the Eagles.
Right.
The owner was like
the worst.
The owner is basically like, all right, if we lose him, we lose him. But I just can't deal with him going to the Eagles. Then he went to the Eagles. And then he like awkwardly left the room after that happened.
Yeah,
and I would have been like, I think I just got fired. I think I just got fired.
And he said though, as you walked out, I'm okay. It's okay. Like he gave him the assurance, you're not fired. I'm just gonna have to deal with the reality that I didn't want to deal with. And that was interesting too, because when the GM's talking to the agent, he's like, "Can you give me a hint where he's going, like in the division?" Because the Eagles rumors were there, and I think he wanted to be able to tell his owner that he wasn't going to Philadelphia, but he couldn't tell him that because he was.
He said he wanted to mentally prepare. That's why he wanted them to know. Like he wanted to mentally prepare. So
yeah. And by the way, there was one tiny little Bears nugget that I think appeared to be false, but. Because he goes, the word is the Bears are driving up the price and the Eagles are out.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't know if that's true or not. And obviously half of that became definitely not true because the Eagles signed them. They obviously weren't out. But that speaks to, remember when we were doing our show that day on the first day of free agency, there was like that noise that the Bears were in on Barkley. And so there you go. Maybe that's the same information.
Yeah, and that was interesting. I'm glad you brought that up because it does seem like the Bears were in there to a point, and then they pivoted and obviously and signed Swift. But it seems like they were around the periphery at bare minimum.
We all silly like the mayor.